My Destined 1, Tensura x Arifureta by Void Kane. Ch. 43. The Duchy of Ankadi. After the young man regained consciousness, the group took him into the car and gave him water to drink. Then the young man explained his story. His name was Viz Fuad Zengane and he was the son of the ruler of the Duchy of Ankadi, which was the only country that existed in the desert. This country used a lot of seafood and was the main supplier of food to mankind. After Viz introduced himself, the members of the group introduced themselves and Viz was amazed to learn that they were apostles of God and also golden adventurers. After that Viz told about his illness and why he was here. 4 days ago a crisis came to the Duchy of Ankadi. Several people were infected by a disease that made them unconscious and lose control of their magic power. Before long there were 3,000 infected. The total population is 270,000. And the disease continued to spread and many died. The doctors didn't know what caused it, but one day, by accident, one of them used analytical magic on the city water, and to his surprise, he realized that it was contaminated. All the water in Ankadi came from a large oasis, and after further analysis it was discovered that the oasis water was contaminated with an unknown substance. After that it was chaos because there was very little uncontaminated water and the disease was spreading fast. However, there was a way to suppress the disease: the Serene Stone. This disease damaged people out of control of their magical power, but this stone could calm it down. If ground into a powder, this stone could even cure the disease. The Serene Stone could be found inside the Guryan volcano, which is also a dungeon that lies north of Ankadi. So Viz, at the behest of his father, went towards the Haihiri kingdom to get help from the adventurers and the church to enter the Guryan dungeon. He also went for food aid as the crop had been infected by the water, but he fainted on the way because he was infected with the disease. In fact, the reason the magical beasts didn't attack him when he was passed out was because of fear of the disease. My symptoms hadn't appeared at the beginning of the trip, but they came on hard after a day's travel and made me faint. Viz looked guilty for not making it to the kingdom. He seemed to have a great sense of responsibility to his people and couldn't stand to see them suffer. Viz was thinking that he was very lucky to be found by Hajime and Rimuru's group. I want you, no, I ask you, as a representative of the Duchy of Ankadi, please lend me your strength. He spoke and bowed deeply. The group had varied reactions. Chloe, Sakura, Kaori and Shia were totally on the "let's help" team, but Hajime, Rimuru, Yu, Tio and Seal were wondering what to do. The reason they were hesitant to help was because they didn't want to get too involved in the war in this world. If they helped humanity too much, it could totally influence the war. In fact, Yu would accept any decision Hajime made, just as Seal would accept any decision Rimuru made. Rimuru didn't want to see innocent people die, so he decided to help, but he wanted to know Hajime's thoughts first, but before he could ask. Papa, we're going to help, right? Myu tugged on Hajime's sleeve and asked with a hopeful face. Hajime couldn't say no to that question and agreed. He also thought it might be helpful to have the Ankadi Duchy owe them a favor. Fufu, Shia and Tio laughed at Hajime, who couldn't say no to Myu, so they headed towards the Duchy of Ankadi. Halfway there Viz spoke. Look, leaving aside this strange means of transportation, since you guys are going to lend me your strength, I'd like you to collect serene stones at the volcano, is that okay? Yes, don't worry about it. Since we've decided to help, we'll see if we can do something about the water as well. Could you guys do something about the oasis? Hajime looked at Rimuru thinking that he was the one most likely to be able to do something about it. Even if Rimuru couldn't, you could use water magic as a temporary solution. Rimuru raised his thumb up and said. Of course we can. Don't worry Viz-san. Ankadi will be saved. He said confidently, and that relieved Viz a little. He could finally see hope before his eyes. Filled circle, the group arrived in Ankadi. It was a large city with a barrier around it to protect from sandstorms, and in addition it relieved the heat a little. Next to the city, still inside the barrier, was a large and beautiful oasis. When you were in the city you could see how crowded the city was with patients. In addition, many thirsty people could be seen who could not drink the water from the oasis. The group first spoke with Ranzi, Viz's father, who was the ruler of these lands. After hearing that the group could save the city, Ranzi was amazed. Especially after learning that 3 of them were apostles of God. Kaori went to help stabilize the people and took several mana crystals with her. Biz also went with her to explain to the people who Kaori was. The others went to assess the oasis with Ranzi. Master. No need to warn Seal-san. I figured it out too. Hajime, Seal and Rimuru seemed to have noticed something. Ranzi and the group did not understand his words and made confused expressions. Ranzi then asked, "Is there a problem?" "It's just that. How well did your team assess the oasis?" Well, we assessed the water of both the oasis and the underground river that fills it. The water in the river was not contaminated. The only part we didn't analyze well was the bottom of the oasis. Ranzi was confused by Rimuru's question. Hajime then asked, "Did something sink into the oasis?" "No, certainly not." Ranzi explained that they had guards around the oasis and on top of that a barrier that made anyone who had bad intentions against the oasis faint. So he said there was no chance that anyone could have poisoned the oasis. Rimuru approached the edge of the oasis and raised his hand toward the water. "Then what is that?" Rimuru said this and used a wind magic to attack the water. Ranzi was confused by Rimuru using a magic without a corner, but he completely forgot about it 2 seconds later. That's because Urua! What's that? With a roar, a 4-meter-tall creature came out of the water. It looked like a giant green-colored slime and was floating in the air. Ranzi took a few steps backwards in fright. The others finally understood what Hajime, Rimuru and Seal had detected. Roar! The creature gave another disgusting roar and took off on Rimuru, who was closest. Ranzi thought Rimuru was gone, but the rest of the group was taking pity on the creature. Rimuru stretched out his hand toward the creature and said, "Well, I think I'd better kill it at once." Purple flames. Rimuru threw a small purple flame at the creature. The creature was burned and died. Simple as that. Rimuru didn't even use any stronger attacks as there was no need. He even thought about using some of his new abilities that he analyzed from the arch angles, but saw that there was no need. Ranzi couldn't understand what his eyes were seeing and asked in a trembling voice, "That magical beast. Did it die?" Yes, that's right." Rimuru agreed with Ranzi's question. "Hajime, you, Shia and Kaori, were looking like, we understand how you feel. But what was that? A Vracham, how did it end up in the oasis?" Vracham were magical beasts similar to slimes, but they were much smaller than this creature. No one seemed to know what the creature was, but Seal, who had just analyzed the water, said, "That magical beast was the source of the water contamination. The most likely way it got there was at the demon's command." "Ah. I thought it must be something like that." Hajime seemed to have thought it would be something like that, and Ranzi did not understand his words. The demons? What do you guys mean?" Before that, if that creature was the source of contamination, then is the water clean now? One of Ranzi's subordinates examined the water and said that it was still contaminated. The one who answered Ranzi's question about the demons was Tio. What Seal and Gushin-sama mean is that the ones who would gain the most from this are the demons, right? Plus they have the ability to control magical beasts now. So it would be possible for them to do that. Killing so many innocents just to win the war, that's really. The demons would have a lot to gain if humanity's main food supplier went into crisis. Rimuru didn't seem to like the demons' strategy one bit. He had participated in several wars before, but never thought of doing such a thing. "It seems I was very naive. I never thought that the demons would do something like this. Well, I guess I should thank them. Now that this magical beast has been eliminated. In time the water of the oasis will be clean on its own." Ranzi thanked them deeply. Rimuru was talking to Seal about something, and seeing that they thanked him, he said, "Don't worry, you won't have to wait, what do you?" Rimuru didn't even let Ranzi finish speaking and pulled his hoverboard out of infinite space. He got on his skateboard and went to the middle of the oasis. "What is he doing?" Ranzi asked the group, but they didn't seem to know either. Only Seal said, "Don't worry about it. Just watch." Everyone looked at Rimuru. Rimuru raised his hand slightly and a black flame appeared in his hand. The flame was really small and went towards the water of the oasis, then the water in the oasis began to evaporate. Even though the black flame was small, its temperature was not even a little. A few seconds passed and the flame caused all the water to evaporate. What? Ranzi's mouth was almost reaching the ground, so open was it. The others were also a little surprised. This was because Rimuru had just wiped out the water source of the country they were helping, but they thought Rimuru must have a plan. My turn, Seal said and disappeared. Actually, she didn't disappear, she had just temporarily gone back inside Rimuru. Yosh, come on. Let the water be done. Rimuru climbed high with his skateboard and lowered his hand. As he spoke, water came out of his hand. Yet it was not little water. Bam! Everyone's eyes widened. That's because a waterfall was coming out of Rimuru's hand. No, it wasn't just a waterfall, it was much more water. The force of this water when it fell was so great that it caused the oasis to grow in size. However, even though the oasis doubled in size, water kept coming out of Rimuru's hand and all the while the oasis was filled. Everyone was dumbfounded. The only ones who weren't that surprised were Chloe and Sakura. This was the water creation technique that Seal had created. A few years ago Rimuru was thinking about the future. This was something he did a lot since he didn't age and was in the future. He was thinking about some problems that might arise and he thought of one, the lack of water. Unlike food, water could not be created and water was necessary for many life forms. So Rimuru wanted to think of a solution for the future lack of water. Water magic did not create water, it only invoked and controlled it. The only ones that could really create water were the spirits, but relying on them too much could cause various conflicts. So Rimuru asked Seal what could be done if he ran out of water in the future. Seal first developed a technique to turn large amounts of salt water into fresh water. This would make it take much longer to run out of water, since they could drink seawater. After a while Seal created the Destined solution, a magic formula that created water. Seal said that this formula was too advanced and that the current alchemists did not understand. So Rimuru decided not to introduce this formula until far in the future, but he could create water as much as he wanted. So Rimuru decided to replace the water in the oasis. Not only that, but since he turned the other water into steam, it would rain a lot in the city and this would help the new crops, since the old ones spoiled due to the contaminated water. He also confirmed with Seal that the poison would not evaporate along with the water. Rimuru returned to the group and Seal returned to his body. I think that's good. Sakura, could you do me a favor? Obviously. Rimuru ignored the surprised faces of his companions and spoke to Sakura. Sakura would not deny a request from Rimuru and agreed before she listened. Rimuru whispered something in her ear and she nodded. Sakura stepped back a little and raised her hand high. A pink light began to come out of her hand and she said, "Nature's blessing." The light shone brightly for a while and then went out. If anyone in the city looked around they could see several new plants or plants that had grown too fast. This was a magic of Sakura's that turned a soul into a fertile one. She applied it in and around the area of the city. This magic was similar to Veldora's fertile paradox, but its effect was much smaller. This was good as it would not start growing trees inside the houses. Rimuru explained to Ranzi that this magic would help with future crops. It would make sure that the people of the town would not go hungry since the harvest was discarded. What in the world? Yo, Rimuru, don't you think that's an exaggeration? Ranzi was amazed at the events and Hajime thought that Rimuru may have gone a bit overboard, but Rimuru didn't care. I think that will be enough. Now we just need to get the stones from the volcano, right Ranzi-san? Ranzi-san? Ranzi was looking at Rimuru and Sakura with an amazed expression. He regained his senses at Rimuru's call and said, "Rimuru Dono and all of you. The Duchy of Ankadi owes you an eternal debt. Thank you." He said and bowed his head. His subordinates did the same. Normally it would be frowned upon for a ruler to do this, but none of his subordinates stopped him because they knew that this group had actually saved their country. Rimuru was a bit ungracious at being thanked so sincerely and Hajime was happy to hear the word debt, as he wouldn't have to remind them that they would be owed one. Well, we have no time to waste. Let's go back and talk to Kaori, we still have to master the dungeon. Hajime said and they all headed to the medical center where Kaori was. Halfway there they asked Seal and Rimuru about how he made that huge amount of water. They thought it might be helpful if everyone knew this magic, but Rimuru told them that only Seal and he could do it. They arrived at the place where the patients were being treated. Kaori was taking care of several people at the same time, and meanwhile the other doctors were doing secondary work. The doctors respected Kaori very much after seeing how strong she was, and the patients too. In fact, she was already idolized by much of the town, for in their eyes she was a beautiful and powerful apostle of God. Ranzi called everyone in a loud voice and told the audience that the oasis had been purified. This caused cries of joy to resound and hopeful looks to return to the people. The group spotted Kaori healing some patients, and Hajime called out to her. "Hey, Kaori, we are heading to the dungeon, so how long will it take?" "Hajime-kun." Kaori made a happy expression upon seeing Hajime, but upon hearing his words she became thoughtful. 2 days, she replied. That was the time until she did as much as she could for her patients. "Hajime-kun, I will stay here. In the meantime, get the stones from the volcano. I'm sorry for not accompanying you. I really want to save these people, even though Hajime-kun doesn't care about this world." "No need to apologize. I've already said I'm going to help this town, so it's no problem." On the way here, Kaori heard about the mad gods and Hajime's goal. Still, she didn't care and wanted to continue with him. So she was kind of guilty for not helping her companions in the dungeon and staying helping people that Hajime didn't even care about. However, Hajime reassured her. "Okay, we'll get the stones then. Take care." Kaori was happy to see Hajime caring about her and moved closer. Her cheeks were red and she said, "You too. Don't hurt yourself, I'll be waiting." She spoke and kissed Hajime goodbye. Hajime felt a great pressure falling in the room when Kaori did this. All the people from Ankadi who were nearby looked at him dangerously. That was because this looked like the scene of a worried wife saying goodbye to a husband going off to war, and the people who idolized Kaori did not like this. Kaori turned away from Hajime and smiled goodbye. At that moment Rimuru approached. "Kaori-san, I will leave Seal-san with you. I assure you she will be of great help." Rimuru said, and Seal approached. He thought Seal would help because he had his great analytical skills, and in addition Rimuru had caused a spirit of light to merge with his body. Seal previously had a simple normal body. She didn't want to have a powerful body as she would have to take power from Rimuru, and that is something Seal would never do as she always gives priority to Rimuru. Rimuru tried to convince her to take some of his power, but Seal would not give in. Seal, to reassure Rimuru, said that she could transfer her consciousness back to Rimuru even if something happened to her body. Rimuru was still worried about her, so Seal summoned a spirit of light and merged with it. This gave her some attack powers and some healing powers. "Okay, it'll be great to have more help around here," Kaori said and went to introduce Seal to the other medics. Hajime left Myu in Ranzi's care and didn't forget to leave the message. "If anything happens to her, I will kill you." Ranzi broke into a cold sweat and called several guards to protect Myu. Several soldiers came and took Myu away. "Gushin-sama, don't you want to give me a kiss too?" Tio spoke pervertedly and Hajime gave her a brutal look. "Those eyes, I'm going to have to change my panties," she spoke breathlessly, scaring the people around. Shia also insisted for a kiss, but the most she got was a kiss on the cheek. Obviously Yu was kissed too. After that Hajime, Rimuru, Chloe, Yu, Shia, Sakura and Tio headed towards the dungeon.